So we have a very unappreciated and underrated holiday this week. May 4th is Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. So I thought we should check in with some of our friends to see what they think about this lesson today.
I have a bad feeling about this. I've got a bad feeling about this.
Oh, I have a bad feeling about this.
Very bad feeling about this.
I got a bad feeling about this.
I have a bad feeling about this.
I got a bad feeling about this.
A really bad feeling about this.
I got a bad feeling about this.
I've got a bad feeling about it.
Quiet.
What?
Ouch. Well, that wasn't very confidence inspiring, was it? Well, I still believe in you guys. I think you can do it.
The Emperor does not share your optimistic appraisal of the situation.
Ouch, that was rough again. Well, regardless of what everybody else's opinion has been, I still expect you guys to try on this homework.
Why not? Do. Or do not. There is no try.
Sorry, Yoda. When you're right, you're right. I stand corrected. So I'm expecting you guys to do this homework.
Timar the Math Wizard, have you seen my father?
I am your father.
No, that's not true. That's impossible.
Search your feelings. You know it to be true.
No! Timar the Math Wizard, I love you.
I know. Search your feelings. You know it to be true.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. W.
I'm not gonna let react at all.
Am I supposed to react after he says I know? Oh!
You could
Roll your eyes.
You could be like,
You can just.
Okay.
hello, 7th grade. This is always a more entertaining lesson to do in person than it's going to be to do on video. If you were here in person, I'll ask you to do what I'm asking you to do now is figure out what you think this answer is to this problem. So pause the video for a minute and work on this problem and come back whenever you think you have an answer to this. So once you're back, about half of you, if you were live in person in the room, would be yelling 20. About half of you would be yelling 14. And a few stray people would be yelling other things that make less sense than 20 or 14 do. Hard to predict what those answers would be. And then I'd ask somebody who had 20 to explain why they had 20. And somebody would say 2 plus 3 is 5. 5 times 4 is 20. And some of the people who had 14 would hear that and they'd weaken and think, yeah, I'm changing my vote. I'm going to change my vote to 20. Because 2 plus 3 is 5, and 5 times 4 is 20. And that makes sense. I'm with that 20 answer now. And then I'd give somebody who had 14 a chance to explain themselves. And they'd say 3 times 4 is 12. 12 adding 2 is 14. And some people would then weaken and join their side. Yeah, 3 times 4 is 12. 12 plus 2 is 14. I'm signing up with 14. And sometimes people would even get a little bit heated about this. Sometimes it's sort of funny because it seems like there's 2 right answers, but there can't be 2 right answers. That's not the way math works. So even though 2 plus 3 is 5, times 4 is 20, and even 3 times 4 is 12, plus 2 is 14, you can't both be right. And we can't have 7th graders fighting to the death. Unfortunately, we're in quarantine, and that's not going to be an issue over this. But there is a thing, and somebody would have eventually come up with this idea while we were battling, that you've learned before, that's called the order of operations. The order of operations tells you what order to do a problem in, so there can only be one right answer, and people don't have to fight to the death. The first thing you do in a problem, if you have any, is you do parentheses. Parentheses come first. There are no parentheses in this problem, though, so that does not help us. Second on our list in order, we would do exponents. exponents come number 2 on the list. But that doesn't solve our dilemma, because this problem doesn't have exponents. However, if we get over to a question like this, the exponents would be the first thing we would tackle. Did you stay with me?
No, I didn't. We lost me, I'm
Problem
sorry.
like this, the exponent would happen first because it's higher on the list. Something like this, the parentheses would happen first because that's highest on the list. But as we work down the list, when we get to level 3, multiply and divide are in a tie for number 3 on the list. And in the last place is adding and subtracting. So when you have a choice of what order to do something with a mix of operations, parentheses always win. Add and subtract is always saved for last. Exponents are strong, but they come in after the parentheses are handled. Multiply divide is sort of like a medium thing. So based on that, when we go to do this problem, adding happens last because it's last on the list. Multiply happens before add because multiply is higher on the list. So this question, we should multiply first to get 12 and then add 2. So 14 is the only right answer. We also need a tiebreaker. So for ties, we want to go from the left to the right. So that's regardless of which level we had. If we had 2 parentheses, one on the left, one on the right, do the one on the left first. If you had multiply and divide mixtures, do the ones on the left first. Anytime there's ties, we'll start on the left and work to the right. So here's a question for a tie. There's a divide and a multiply. Divide and multiply are tied. So when we get a tie, we do the part of the problem on the left, which is the divide to get an 8, then times 2 to get a 16. If you want to self-check yourself, pause the video and do the answers to the problems and see if you got them. And if you don't, then you can listen to what I'm doing. For this, exponents or parentheses happen first because that's number 1 on the list. Parentheses multiply to get you 6. Then finish the problem by dividing 24 by 6 to get you 4. Add and subtract are tied at number 4 on the list. So when they tie, you do the part that's on the left. 5 minus 2 is 3. 3 add 7 to get you 10. For this, parentheses are number 1 on the list. 2 plus 7 is 9. 5 minus 9, save subtract for last. 5 minus 9 is negative 4. That's a positive minus a positive. We'd only have gotten a positive if the first number was bigger, and it was not. This has subtract, which is in last place, add, which is in last place, and then exponents. Exponents are in second place, so do the exponents first. 3 to the second power means 3 times 3, which is 9. 3 times 3 is 9. Subtract versus add are tied for last place. So do the subtract first to get 3, and then add 4 to get 7. And I'm going to walk back to the left and just tell you another thing. Some schools will give you just different acronyms and memory tricks to try to remember the order. I usually just go straight order. Just parentheses are first, exponents are second, multiply, divide, tie, add, subtract, tie. But some schools will teach a memory sentence saying. It's called a mnemonic device. It helps you remember things. But they'll teach you the sentence, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. P for parentheses, E, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. They'll use those first letters and make like a sentence out of it. I don't care for that because parentheses beat exponents, so that's good for that. But it makes it seem like multiply beats divide. And multiply doesn't beat divide. Multiply ties divide. Other people will make up the word PEMDAS. They'll teach them the word PEMDAS. Same thing. I don't care for that because it makes it seem like multiply beats divide. But they just like made up a homemade acronym. Like scuba has become a word, but originally scuba was self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. They made an acronym out of that. It became a word. PEMDAS. If PEMDAS helps you remember, fine. If please excuse my dear Aunt Sally helps you, fine. But it is important to realize, multiply doesn't beat divide. Add doesn't beat subtract. They're tied, they're lows. Back to the right. This, out of divide, exponents, multiply, and subtract, exponents are the highest level. 2 to the third means 2 times 2, which is 4, times 2 again, which is 8. And then re-skim the problem. There's a divide, a multiply, and a subtract. Subtract is last. Divide and multiply are tied, so do the left part. 72 divides 8 is 9. Then the multiply is back to 45. 9 times 5 is 45. 45 minus 50 is negative 5, because 45 is too little to subtract 50. If you now think you have this, maybe pause the video, do a few problems, do a self-check. Here there's 2 subtracts, so do the left part is 2, minus the other 2 is 0. For this, multiply is the winner, above subtract, subtract is in last place, multiply is 10. 6 minus 10, a lot of our subtracting is coming up negatives today, but little minus big is a negative number when we subtract. Out of this, add and subtract are last, so multiply is first, that's 6 times 2 is 12. Do the left part first is 17. Then 17 minus 4 is 13. For this, parentheses are the champ. Parentheses beat everything. 3 minus 7 is a negative 4. Subtract is in last, so we need to multiply. Multiplying is negative 8. Remember the multiply rules. A negative times a positive is still a negative. 6 is subtracting negative 8, so maybe I'll rewrite that like this. 6 subtracting negative 8. The subtract is still there. We just created a negative from that. Minus minus makes plus is still a thing. 6 plus 8, that's 14. Skimming this, subtract is in last, so I'll wait for that. Divide and multiply tie, that's on the left. So divide to get 5. 5 times 6 is 30. 30 minus 30, that's another 0. And some longer ones. Subtract and add are in last. Multiply and divide are better. They're tied. I'll do the multiply because it's on the left. Then I'll do the divide because it's on the right. Then subtract, add are tied. I'll subtract because it's on the left is negative 2. 18 minus 20 is negative 2. When negative 2 adds 5, that's the rule. Adding one of each depends on who is bigger, which is positive. Then we subtract to get 3. And then this last one is big. If we were here in person, I would have people do this and yell the answer at me, and we would make a list of probably about 10 different answers. Eventually, some people would start to agree. A lot of people would disagree for a while. Try it, see if you can do it, but usually in person, it takes a while to come to agreement on this answer. Parentheses happen first. So if I do the parentheses, 12 minus 8 is 4. Parentheses are always number 1. Exponents, always number 2. So this, I see 2 exponents. I'll do the one that's on the left first. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. All those 2's are 16. 4 times itself. 4 times 4 is 4 to the second power. That's also 16. Then I'll look for multiplies and divides. I see a divide, I see a multiply. So I'll do the divide on the left. 32 dividing 16 is 2. And then 16 times 2 is 32. I'll add that up. And if you had 34, be happy. There would have probably been a couple people in live and in person that would have had 34 and a whole lot of people ready to argue with them. So, there's a worksheet, order of operations. Do that one, and I'll see you next time.